So Trapper's head of product at MIU Health. And Trapper, I'll let you kind of describe your background, how you ended up at MIU Health, what MIU Health is, and then we can take it from there.
Cool. I am kind of a recent transplant to Boston. I moved here in 2008. Prior to that, I was in the video gaming space for a couple of years, and then I was kind of looking for what to do next. And I've always been into community building, all the way back to the bulletin board, modem days, and building online movie communities, online gaming communities. So I was really fascinated with the idea of online health communities. Could you use the same interactions, social interactions, and use that to ultimately drive measurable health outcomes? So I just was on Crunchboard and met up with Chris Carter, who has a background at a Boston University, built an online smoking cessation product called QuitNet, and he had ended up at Healthways, which is a disease management company out of Nashville, through a series of acquisitions. And he was really sort of challenging Healthways to think differently around online health interventions. Historically, health interventions online, web-based interventions have sort of been portal-focused. So, we have a portal, and people come to the portal and they get content and access to utilities. And the engagement historically for portals in the health industry is extremely low. And the stats that we've looked at say that it's 3% are even active after 30 days. So fairly low levels of engagement. So the whole reason we were created was to say, could we solve that problem? Could we build something that actually engaged somebody? Because you're not going to get any measurable health outcomes if you can't get people to actually use what you create.
So today's talk is around building not even startup, but just building health-related products and CAM partnerships. A lot of startups or a lot of companies want to partner with insurance companies or benefits companies in order to gain customers or get users on their platform. You guys have a unique situation at MIU Health because you're a subsidiary of a huge Fortune 500 company who kind of has these big customers with a lot of employees.
Yeah.
What's your experience so far in leveraging Healthways as being a good outlet for you guys to acquire users?
The whole reason, there's two reasons I took the MIU Health job and why I found it really fascinating. One, because it was a fully funded startup. I mean, all the resources of Healthways were at our disposal to go and figure out this problem, right? So I found that attractive coming off of the 2009 crash and fundraising and running a startup at the time that was out constantly fundraising and trying to find money. So it was kind of refreshing to say, look, here's all the resources you need to go out and solve this problem. So that was the first part. The second part was we were backed by a publicly traded large health services company that already had the biz dev relationships. They already had contracts with thousands of companies. They had the contracts with all the big blues. So the whole idea was, if we can just focus on product, if we can come in and just really nail the product and create a really good product, that Healthways could distribute it. They were the distributor, right? So when you build product, there's sort of this push and pull between, okay, I need to build for engagement, but I also need to build for distribution. So you're trying to do, how can I make this thing go viral? How can I do it? Well, we didn't have to do any of that. We don't have to run any ads. We don't have to worry about it going viral. We don't have to have a marketing push because Healthways is that push. When we first started, the principles that we had 4 principles that we would build products that are realistic about what they ask people to do, convenient enough to factor into their life, give them immediate positive feedback, and do so in a genuine context. And that genuine context is the hardest because what we've seen over and over again is health plans and employers ask people to do stuff all the time, and they can't get people to do it, so they have to pay them. But the internet asks us to do stuff all the time, and we do it because we do it for ourselves. So, if it's a health risk assessment, HRA, and my employer is asking me to take it, I don't trust that. I don't trust the information I'm giving them, and so they have to pay me. $50, okay. Well, for $50, I'll tell you if I smoke or not. But I don't want to tell you that, so you have to pay me to do it. But if you can set up a context in which someone puts in that information for themselves, and the employer never gets to see that, and they know that, right? So if I'm taking a quiz on Facebook, a health quiz on Facebook, that's going to give me a score of what my health is or my real age, what's your real age, people will take that for free. And so with Daily Challenge, we made the decision early on that you would not be able to white label it, right? So we wouldn't white label it, we wouldn't put the employer's brand on it, we wouldn't put the health plan's brand on it. That decision right there is probably hours of phone calls with every customer, because they just assume that they'll have that. And we don't white label it because we don't want people thinking they're putting their data in to Blue Shield or putting their data in to their employer. They're putting it into an online health product that's going to help them learn about health and learn about well-being. So that's a very important line to draw, and it's a battle line that is a deal breaker for us. We will not put your logo on it. The other aspect of it too is if the individual leaves that employer, leaves that health plan, they can still use Daily Challenge. They just revert into the free non-sponsored version. So because of that, right, we do really want it to feel like it's not specific to that employer, it's not specific to that health plan. It's just an online product that your health plan is making available to you and offering you some additional benefits around it, like incentive integration or something like that makes it more worth your while. But definitely there is this sort of expectation of what they buy, how they buy it, what they're allowed to customize, what they're allowed to change, putting their logo on it, putting their logo in all the emails, being able to email everybody in it. They just assume that that's what they get. And so it's been a very long process. And what helps us there is the engagement numbers we do have. It's very easy to say, don't break this, right? This thing works. We've validated it works. It works because of this. If you start putting your logos on it, you start changing stuff and changing wording, and you're going to break it. And then you're not going to get the engagement that you ultimately want. And so that's been the biggest strength that we've had.
How about from the product side? Talk a little bit about that. And you guys obviously build products for the masses, and thinking that way is a little bit different than maybe like some of the other startups in the room who have a very specific niche of people that they're going after. When you think about those appointments, what's the length of the appointment that you guys are considering? Is it, Daily Challenge might take 5 minutes, but, Run Keeper, it's going to be 30 minutes to an hour to go for a run, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and, back to the demographic thing, where we've really settled in on is designing for the first step. So the populations that we go into are typically going to be populations of people that have never done anything. So by its very nature, anything that we ask them to do, if we're adhering to a realistic principle, is something extremely small, something extremely convenient. That's the only way to really appeal. And we've seen that. So there's a lot of health and wellness programs that are competition-based, like you got to come in, you got to set a goal, you got to join a weight loss competition, you got to join a steps competition. For most people who have no mastery over their own health, that is the most daunting thing in the world. To just throw them into a competition and say, hey, here's something you're totally not good at, that you totally fail at, good luck. So for us, it was like, well, we don't want any goal setting. We just want people to start experiencing something small. So that's where we sort of netted out. I know that there's lots of scenarios where that doesn't apply, and there's a lot of scenarios that require sort of active engagement. And I think those are all just different sort of problems to solve. One of the places we are looking at that is, so Daily Challenge is our first core product. We have another product that we're working on now. It's called Walkadoo, and it's a pedometer product for people who have never done anything physically active, right? So how do you give someone a pedometer and introduce them to the idea of everyday movement? So not the active tracking, I'm going for a run type of thing, but I'm just on the factory floor walking around all day. Like, help me quantify, help them connect that they are engaging in physical activity. They are engaging in exercise, just reframing it as everyday movement. So that's the second product. We're piloting that right now in California, and that will launch next year to the market. And then we also are working on a weight management product. So we're at the very, very early stages of what does weight management look like with a small actions approach if you don't set goals, if you don't make it about losing pounds, how does that reframe people's relationships with how they eat, how they consume, how they move? So that product's really early on and will be a year or so.